The night sky above Seoul changed in an instant. Private Do-hyun sat at his monitoring station in the defense satellite control room, drinking his third coffee of the shift. His eyes were heavy. It was 3 in the morning, and nothing ever happened during his watch. The screens showed the usual patterns of orbital debris and commercial satellites moving in their predictable paths. Then everything went red. Alarms screamed through the control room. Do-hyun dropped his coffee cup and leaned forward, his heart suddenly pounding. 200 massive objects had just appeared in high orbit. They hadn't flown in from space. They hadn't been detected approaching. They were simply there, as if they had torn a hole in reality and stepped through. "Captain Minji," Do-hyun shouted, his voice cracking. "We have contacts. Multiple contacts." Captain Minji crossed the room in 3 strides. She was a stern woman in her 40s who had served in the military for 20 years. Do-hyun had never seen her look surprised, but now her eyes went wide as she stared at his screen. "How many?" she asked quietly. 200, ma'am. Each one is enormous. Bigger than aircraft carriers. Much bigger." Minji grabbed the red phone on the wall. It was a direct line to the Korean Defense Command. "This is Captain Minji at Satellite Control Station 7. We have unknown objects in high orbit. Confirming. 200 large craft of unknown origin. Request immediate escalation to command authority." Quote. She listened for a moment, her face growing pale. "Understood. Initiating Protocol Sunrise." Do-hyun had heard of Protocol Sunrise in training, but he never thought it would be used. It was the code for first contact with hostile alien forces. Every soldier was told about it, but everyone assumed it was just theoretical planning. Something that would never actually happen. But it was happening now. Across the city, Dr. Junho was still awake in his laboratory at KAIST. He was a physicist who studied advanced propulsion systems. His colleague, Dr. Haejin, had stayed late to help him finish calculations for their latest research paper. They were drinking instant ramyeon and arguing about quantum field equations when Junho's phone buzzed. The message was simple. Junho and Haejin walked to the window. Seoul's light pollution usually hid most stars, but now the sky glowed with an eerie light. Junho pulled out his phone and opened a news stream. Every channel showed the same thing. Massive alien ships hanging in the sky above Earth. They were visible from Korea, Japan, China, and everywhere else in Asia. Reports were coming in from Europe and the Americas too. The ships circled the entire planet. "It's really happening," Haejin whispered. After all this time, Junho looked at her sharply. "What do you mean, after all this time?" Before she could answer, both of their phones buzzed again. This time, the message was longer. "Report to Facility 7 immediately. Bring nothing. Tell no one. Authorization. Sunrise." Junho's hands started shaking. Facility 7 was located deep under the mountains north of Seoul. He had heard rumors about it. Whispers among the senior researchers. Some said it was a bunker for government officials. Others said it was something else entirely. Something stranger. In space, aboard the largest of the alien vessels, Fleet Commander Thane studied the planet below. He was a Velkari, a species that had conquered 846 worlds. This would be number 847. The planet's designation was Target 93, though its inhabitants called it Earth. Thane's skin was gray and thick, covered in ridged plates that showed his rank. His 4 eyes could see across multiple spectrums, and right now, they showed him a primitive world. His sensors detected nuclear weapons, crude ballistic missiles, and simple aircraft that still used combustion engines. The planet's communications were unencrypted radio waves. Their computer networks were laughably vulnerable. "Prepare the standard ultimatum," Thane ordered his communications officer. "Give them 12 hours to surrender unconditionally. If they refuse, we begin with the coastal cities." The communications officer, a younger Velkari named Kren, nodded and began composing the message. It was always the same message. The Velkari Empire had refined it over centuries of conquest. It was designed to create maximum panic and ensure quick surrender. But as Kren prepared to send it, something strange happened. Every radio frequency on Earth went silent. Every television station stopped broadcasting. Every cell phone network paused. For exactly 10 seconds, there was complete silence from the planet below. Then the broadcasts resumed, but they were different. Coordinated. Every station on Earth was now showing the same image. A simple blue flag, with a white circle in the center. It was the flag of the United Earth Defense Force, though the Velkari had never heard of such an organization. Thane frowned. What is this? Send the ultimatum. The message was broadcast in every language Earth used. It appeared on every screen and interrupted every communication. The Velkari had translated it carefully. You have entered protected space. Surrender your vessels immediately and prepare to be escorted to the edge of this system. You have one standard rotation to comply. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your fleet. Thane read the message 3 times. Then he laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that echoed through the command deck. They threaten us? With what? Their primitive rockets? He laughed again. No. We send our ultimatum. Prepare the broadcast. The Velkari ultimatum went out across every frequency. It was harsh and direct. Earth had 12 hours to surrender or be destroyed. They would be absorbed into the Velkari Empire. Their resources would be harvested. Their population would serve. Resistance would be met with planetary bombardment. Thane expected panic. Chaos. Desperate pleas for mercy. That's what always happened. Instead, Earth went silent again. In the Seoul Police Headquarters, Officer Seo Jun was getting ready to end his night shift when the emergency alert came through. All police were ordered to remain on duty. The military was mobilizing. Something was happening, but no one would say what. Then he looked out the window and saw them. Lights in the sky. Dozens of them. They weren't stars. They weren't planes. They were ships. Alien ships. Seojun felt a strange calm settle over him. He walked to his locker and pulled out a small black device that had been issued to all police officers 3 months ago. At the time, they were told it was a new communication system. But Seojun knew better. The device had weights and components that made no sense for a radio. He pressed the activation button. The device hummed to life, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed the position of the alien fleet and designated targets throughout Seoul. Seojun's assigned position was City Hall. He was to wait there with his partner, Detective Yuna. Sunrise Protocol is active, the device announced in a calm female voice. Report to your designated position. Do not engage until authorization is given. Seojun looked at Detective Minho across the room. Minho was staring at his own device, with wide eyes. Did you know about this? Minho asked. No, Seojun said. But I think we're about to find out what we've really been training for. Above them, the Velkari fleet waited for Earth's response. Thane was confident. He had conquered hundreds of worlds. This would be no different. He was wrong. Commander Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the clock count down. 6 hours had passed since the ultimatum. Earth remained silent. No panicked transmissions. No desperate attempts at negotiation. Just silence. It bothered him. Run another sensor sweep, Thane ordered. Full spectrum. I want to know what they're hiding. The sensor officer worked at her console. Sir, the readings are unchanged. Nuclear weapons at various locations. Conventional military forces. Their largest vessels are primitive water-based ships, nothing that could threaten our shields. But Thane was a veteran of 846 conquests. He had survived this long by trusting his instincts. And right now, his instincts were screaming that something was wrong. What about underground structures? He asked. Multiple bunkers detected, Likely government shelters. Standard construction for primitive civilizations expecting nuclear war. Thane nodded slowly. That made sense. But still, the silence troubled him. Every species panicked when they saw the Valkyrie fleet. Every single one. Except Earth. Deep beneath the Korean mountains, Colonel Taejun walked through corridors that officially didn't exist. Facility 7 had been built over 40 years ago, carved into solid rock and shielded with technology that kept it invisible to any known sensors. The facility stretched for kilometers underground, connecting to similar installations in China, Russia, America, and dozens of other countries. Major Suman met him at the central command room. She was younger than Taejun, but she had trained for this moment her entire life. Her family had been part of the program since the beginning. Status? Taejun asked. All systems green across the network, Suman replied. 400 installations are online and armed. Lunar bases report ready status. The orbital platforms are in position. Taejun nodded and looked at the massive holographic display that dominated the room. It showed Earth at the center, surrounded by red markers indicating the Valkyrie ships. Green markers showed Earth's hidden weapons systems. There were far more green markers than red ones. Lunar bases? Taejun repeated. When did we build lunar bases? Suman smiled slightly. 1972. The Apollo program was partially a cover. We've been expanding them ever since. Around the room, dozens of operators sat at consoles, monitoring systems and coordinating with other facilities around the world. Among them was Corporal Inwoo, a young soldier who had been recruited into the program only 2 years ago. He had been chosen because of his exceptional reflexes and his ability to stay calm under pressure. Right now, his hands rested on a console that controlled weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. Corporal Inwoo, Taejun said, walking over to his station. Are you ready? Inwoo swallowed hard and nodded. Yes, sir. Quantum disruption missiles are armed and targeted. Waiting for authorization. You'll have it soon, Taejun said quietly. And when you do, don't hesitate. Understand? Yes, sir. Taejun moved to the center of the room and opened a communication channel. His face appeared on screens in similar facilities across the globe. Generals and commanders from every nation looked back at him. This is Colonel Taejun. All stations, report status. One by one, the reports came in. Geneva. Ready. Colorado Springs. Ready. Beijing. Ready. Moscow. Ready. Tokyo. Ready. The list continued. Every major nation and dozens of smaller ones. All connected. All armed. All waiting. On the streets of Seoul, Officer So-yoon stood in front of City Hall with Detective Yuna and Detective Minho. The plaza was empty. The entire city had been evacuated hours ago through underground tunnels that most citizens never knew existed. Only essential personnel remained. Above them, the night sky glowed with the light from the Valkyrie ships. They were so large and so numerous that they blocked out the stars. Do you think they'll really come down here? Minho asked nervously. Yuna checked her weapon. It looked like a standard police pistol. But Seojun knew it was something else. They had all been issued new weapons 3 months ago. At the time, they were told it was just an upgrade. But the weapons had settings and capabilities that made no sense for law enforcement. They'll come, Yuna said calmly. They always send scouts before the main assault. It's standard Valkyrie procedure. Seojun looked at her sharply. How do you know that? Yuna touched her temple. I don't know how I know. I just know. Like I've always known. Does that make sense? It didn't make sense, but Seojun nodded anyway. He had been experiencing something similar. Strange knowledge appearing in his mind. Technical specifications for the Valkyrie ships, their military tactics, their language. It was as if someone had uploaded information directly into his brain. There, Minho said, pointing at the sky. 6 Valkyrie scout ships were descending. They were smaller than the massive dreadnoughts in orbit, but each one was still the size of a large building. They moved slowly, scanning the city as they approached. One of them headed directly for City Hall. The ship landed in the plaza with a heavy thud that cracked the pavement. A hatch opened, and 6 Valkyrie soldiers emerged. They wore powered armor that made them look even larger than they already were. Each one carried a weapon that could level a building. They walked toward the 3 police officers with the confidence of conquerors who had done this hundreds of times before. Seo-jun stepped forward. He held up a small translation device. "You have 30 seconds to return to your ships and leave our system. This is your only warning." The lead Valkyrie soldier stopped. For a moment, he just stared at Seo-jun. Then he began to laugh. It was a harsh, grinding sound that echoed across the empty plaza. "You warn us?" the Valkyrie said through his own translator. "You primitive creatures dare to threaten the Valkyrie Empire?" 20 seconds. Yuna said calmly. The Valkyrie soldiers raised their weapons. "We will take you alive, so you can watch your world burn. Then, you will beg to serve the Empire." 10 seconds, Minho added. The Valkyrie commander opened his mouth to speak again. He never got the chance. Far beneath the mountains, Captain Minji stood beside Colonel Taejun. They watched the scout ships landing in cities across the globe. Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, Moscow, Beijing. The Valkyrie were following their standard protocol exactly as predicted. "They're in position," Major Suman reported. "All targets acquired." Taejun took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine humanity's future. Either they had been preparing correctly for the past 40 years, or they were about to be wiped out. He thought about his daughter, safe in a bunker, far from here. He thought about his wife, who had died never knowing the truth about what he really did. He thought about all the people who had worked in secret, building weapons and bases, training soldiers, preparing for a day they all hoped would never come. But the day had come. "All stations," Taejun said clearly. "This is authorization. Omega. Execute." Captain Minji pressed a single button on her console. Around the world, 400 other officers pressed identical buttons. In his station, Corporal Inwoo's hands moved across his controls with practiced precision. He had trained for this moment 1,000 times in simulations. But this wasn't a simulation. His screen showed green lights across every target. The Valkyrie fleet hung in space, confident and unprotected. Their shields were designed to stop conventional weapons, nuclear missiles, kinetic projectiles, lasers, but they weren't designed to stop what humanity had built. "Quantum disruption missiles away," Inwoo reported calmly. "Time to impact. 4.7 seconds. Similar reports came from installations across Earth and from the secret lunar bases. Hundreds of weapons launched simultaneously, all targeted with perfect precision. In space, Commander Thane finally realized his mistake. His sensors detected the launches, but the readings made no sense. The weapons were phasing in and out of normal space. They weren't following ballistic trajectories. They were taking impossible paths through folded space-time. "Shields up!" Thane shouted. "All ships, evasive maneuvers." But it was already too late. The weapons passed through the Valkyrie shields as if they weren't there. They appeared inside the ships, bypassing every defense. Thane had one moment to understand that everything he knew about Earth was wrong. Then his ship's reactor went critical. In Seoul, the lead Valkyrie soldier was still pointing his weapon at Officer Seo-jun when the sky turned white. For a brief instant, it was brighter than noon. The light of 200 dying ships filled the atmosphere. Then darkness. And silence. The Valkyrie soldiers stood frozen, their communication with the fleet suddenly gone. They looked up at the sky where their ships had been. There was nothing there. Nothing at all. "You should have listened," Yuna said quietly. The Valkyrie commander slowly lowered his weapon. Through his armor, Seo-jun could see his 4 eyes wide with shock and fear. "What?" What have you done? The Valkyrie whispered. We gave you a warning, Sojun replied. You didn't take it. The Valkyrie soldier's armor made a clicking sound as his weapon fell from his hands. He dropped to his knees in the broken plaza. Around him, his 5 companions did the same. They understood what had happened, even if they couldn't believe it. Their fleet was gone. All 200 ships. Destroyed in less than 5 seconds. How? The commander whispered. Your technology. Our intelligence said you were primitive. You still use combustion engines, radio waves, nuclear fission. Officer Sujun picked up the translation device again. He felt strange, like he was watching himself from a distance. Words came to his mouth that he didn't remember learning. We use those things because they work, Sojun said. And because we wanted you to see them. We wanted you to think we were weak. Detective Yuna stepped forward and removed the Valkyrie commander's helmet. Beneath it, his gray face showed complete shock. His 4 eyes were wide, and his breathing was rapid. Your species has conquered 846 worlds, Yuna said. You follow the same pattern every time. You arrive with overwhelming force. You scan for technology. You make assumptions based on what you see. Then, you attack the primitives. How do you know our history? The commander asked. Yuna touched her temple again. I'm remembering things I never learned. It's been happening to many of us since your ships arrived. It's like waking up from a long sleep. In the underground command center, Dr. Junho and Dr. Heijin had finally arrived after their emergency summons. They stood in the massive chamber, staring at the holographic displays and the hundreds of operators. Colonel Taejun approached them with Major Sumin. Welcome to Facility 7, Taejun said. I apologize for the dramatic circumstances. What is this place? Junho asked. How long has it existed? Since 1953, Taejun replied. After the Korean War ended, several nations came together in secret. They had all experienced something strange during the war. Soldiers who suddenly knew things they shouldn't know. Weapons that worked better than they should work. Small things. Easily dismissed. But some people paid attention. Heijin was looking at a display showing weapon specifications. Her eyes went wide. These designs. This is quantum manipulation technology. Space-time folding. We're decades away from understanding this. Maybe centuries. That's what everyone thought, Major Sumin said. But then, strange things kept happening. A researcher in America would solve an impossible equation in their sleep. An engineer in Russia would design a device that shouldn't work, but did work. A doctor in Japan would remember medical techniques that hadn't been invented yet. 1. We started collecting these people, Taejun continued. Testing them, training them. And we found something incredible. The knowledge wasn't random. It was all connected. It was all part of something larger. Taejun led them to a smaller room off the main command center. Inside was a single display showing a DNA sequence. But it was unlike any sequence Junho had ever seen. Parts of it were dormant, wrapped in what looked like deliberate locks. Human DNA contains information, Taejun said quietly. Not just genetic information. Actual technical data. Encoded at the quantum level. Most of it is locked away. Inactive. But sometimes, under the right conditions, parts of it unlock. That's impossible, Junho said. But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't impossible. He had been experiencing it himself. Strange knowledge appearing in his mind. The ability to understand complex physics that should have taken years to learn. The Valkyrie invasion triggered something, Heijin said slowly. Their ships, their energy signatures. It activated the dormant sections. Taejun nodded. We believe humanity was once a spacefaring species. Long ago. Thousands of years. Maybe tens of thousands. Something happened. We don't know what. But humanity reset itself. Returned to Earth. Started over. And before that happened, Someone encoded all our knowledge into our DNA. A backup. A insurance policy. The weapons we use today, Suman added. We didn't invent them. We remembered them. Different people. All around the world. Suddenly remembering pieces of ancient technology. We've been collecting and building for 40 years. Junho sat down heavily. His mind was racing. So the primitives aren't primitive at all. We've been playing a role. Hiding. From what? Heijin asked. We don't know yet, Taejin admitted. But we're starting to remember. Back on the surface in Seoul, more police and military units had arrived at City Hall. The 6 Valkyrie soldiers were being held under heavy guard. They hadn't resisted. They seemed too shocked to even move. Officer Seojun was writing his report when Detective Minho approached him. They're saying the fleet is completely gone, Minho said. Not just destroyed. Gone. Like it never existed. The same thing happened at all 6 landing sites. Every scout team captured or eliminated. Seojun nodded. He had watched the sky turn white. He had felt the heat of 200 small suns being born and dying in orbit. It should have horrified him, but instead, he felt only a strange sense of recognition, like he had seen this before, though he knew he hadn't. The commander has been asking to speak with someone in authority, Minho continued. He says he has important information about what's coming next. What's coming next? Seojun asked. The rest of the Valkyrie Empire. He says this was just a scouting fleet. The main empire has thousands of ships. Seojun felt a chill run down his spine. They had just destroyed 200 ships in seconds, but thousands? Could Earth's hidden weapons handle that many? He was taken to an interrogation room where the Valkyrie commander sat, his armor removed. Without the armor, he looked smaller and older. Tired. I am Commander Thane, the alien said through the translator. I led the conquest fleet. I have destroyed worlds. I have killed billions. And now, I am your prisoner. Yes, Seojun said simply. I need to send a message to the High Command, Thane said. I need to tell them to stop. I need to tell them to stop. Stop what? Stop coming to your world. Stop sending more fleets. I need to tell them what you are. Seojun leaned forward. And what are we? Thane's eyes met his. All 4 of them. You are the predecessors, the ones who came before. We found your ruins on 1,000 worlds. Ancient cities. Weapons we couldn't understand. Technology so advanced it seemed like magic. We thought you were extinct. Everyone thought you were extinct. Ruins? Seojun asked. What ruins? Everywhere, Thane said. Throughout the galaxy. Your species spread across the stars 50,000 years ago. You built an empire that made ours look like children playing with toys. And then you vanished. Every species in the galaxy has stories about you. The creators, the ancients, the predecessors. Different names for the same thing. Seojun's head was spinning. But we've only had space travel for a few decades. Thane made a sound that might have been a laugh. That's what we thought too. That's what our intelligence said. We thought we were conquering primitives. We were wrong. You weren't primitive. You were sleeping. And now we're awake, Seojun said quietly. Yes, and the galaxy will never be the same. In a military hospital in Seoul, Private Do-hyun was being examined by doctors. Ever since the Valkyrie fleet appeared, he had been experiencing severe headaches. But they weren't normal headaches. They came with visions, images, information. He could see the Valkyrie homeworld in his mind. He knew its location, its defenses, its population. He could read their language as easily as Korean. He knew their military hierarchy, their battle tactics, their weaknesses. How is this possible? He asked the doctor. I never studied the Valkyrie. I never even knew they existed. Until yesterday. 1. How is this possible? And Heimredder vied. How is this possible? Dr. Hagen was one of the doctors examining him. She had been brought from Facility 7 to study the awakening phenomenon. Your DNA is activating, she explained. Sections that were dormant are coming online. The information was always there. You're just accessing it now. Will everyone be like this? Do-hyun asked. We don't know. Some people are having strong activations. Others are experiencing nothing. We're still trying to understand the pattern. Hagen ran more tests, taking blood samples and brain scans. The results were incredible. Do-hyun's brain was forming new neural pathways at an impossible rate. Sections that were normally inactive were lighting up like fireworks. You're not just remembering Valkyrie information, Hagen said slowly. You're developing psychic abilities. You're reading their data networks remotely. That's impossible. Everything about today should be impossible. But it's happening anyway. Across Seoul, similar reports were coming in. A teacher who suddenly understood alien languages. A mechanic who could design faster than light engines. A student who could see multiple futures simultaneously. The Valkyrie invasion had triggered an awakening in humanity. And no one knew where it would end. In the command center, Colonel Taejun received a priority transmission. It came from deep space, from the direction of Valkyrie territory. The message was simple and direct. This is High Commander Dreth of the Valkyrie Empire. We have received preliminary reports about the loss of Conquest Fleet 747. We are reviewing sensor data from nearby observation posts. We request immediate negotiation. Please respond on this frequency. Major Suman looked at Taejun. Should we respond? Taejun thought for a long moment. Humanity had just revealed itself to the galaxy. There was no going back now. The only question was, what happened next? Open a channel, he said finally. Let's see what the Valkyrie Empire wants to say to the predecessors. 6 months had passed since the Valkyrie invasion. The world had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. General Changmin stood before the United Earth Council in Geneva. The council chamber had been expanded to include representatives from every nation on Earth. But more surprisingly, it also included representatives from alien species. The Valkyrie sat in a special section, looking uncomfortable, but determined. Ambassador Yoonji from Korea was leading the session. She had been chosen because of her diplomatic skills and because she was one of the people experiencing the strongest awakening. She could now speak 17 alien languages fluently, including 3 that had been dead for thousands of years. The question before us today, Yoonji said, is how we present ourselves to the broader galactic community. The Valkyrie invasion has made our existence known. We can no longer hide. General Changmin activated a holographic display. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of marked points. We have identified over 2,000 spacefaring civilizations within range of our sensors. Most of them are already aware of what happened here. The news is spreading fast. A representative from Russia, Commander Pavel, spoke up. What are they saying about us? Oh, they're terrified, Changmin replied bluntly. The Valkyrie Empire was one of the most powerful forces in this region of space. We destroyed their conquest fleet in less than 5 seconds. Other species are asking themselves, if we could do that to the Valkyrie, what could we do to them? From the Valkyrie section, High Commander Dreth stood. He was an older Valkyrie, with deep ridges on his face that indicated age and rank. He had arrived on Earth 3 months ago to negotiate a peace treaty. If I may speak, Dreth said respectfully. Yoonji nodded. Please. My people have made many mistakes, Dreth said. We thought we were strong. We thought we could conquer any world we found. But we were children playing with weapons we didn't understand. The humans, the predecessors, they have shown us mercy we do not deserve. It was true. After the initial battle, Earth could have destroyed the Valkyrie homeworld. They had the weapons and the knowledge. Instead, they had offered peace. But it was a peace with conditions. Admiral Heechul, the newly appointed Chief of Space Defense, stood to present his report. He had been a submarine captain before his awakening. Now he could navigate through hyperspace as easily as he once navigated ocean depths. The Velkari have provided us with complete intelligence on other hostile species in the region, Heechul said. There are 17 other empires that follow similar conquest patterns. All of them are now watching Earth very carefully. Are any of them planning to attack? Asked General Amara from Kenya. Not yet. They're waiting to see what we do next. If we remain peaceful, they'll likely leave us alone. If we show aggression, they may form an alliance against us. Dr. Junho raised his hand. He was now the head of the Renaissance Project, the program designed to help humans activate their dormant genetic knowledge. We need to talk about the awakening, Junho said. It's spreading faster than we predicted. 20% of Earth's population is now showing some level of activation. That's over 1.5 billion people. The room went quiet. Everyone knew about the awakening, but hearing the numbers was still shocking. Dr. Heejin, working alongside Junho, brought up medical data. The activations vary widely. Some people are just getting better memory or faster learning. Others are developing abilities we can barely understand. Telepathy, precognition, remote viewing. We even have cases of people who can manipulate matter at the molecular level. Is it dangerous? Unji asked. Sometimes, Heijin admitted. We've had incidents where people couldn't control their new abilities. A few injuries. No deaths yet. But it's a concern. We're setting up training centers around the world to help people manage their awakening. Private Do-hyun, now Lieutenant Do-hyun, had become one of the most important people in Earth's defense. His ability to psychically read Velkari databases had expanded. He could now access information from any computer system, anywhere in the galaxy. He was sitting in the council chamber, listening quietly. Lieutenant Do-hyun, General Changmin said. Do you have anything to add? Do-hyun stood nervously. He was still getting used to being in rooms with generals and ambassadors. Yes, sir. I've been monitoring communications across the galactic network. The Velkari were right. There are ruins everywhere. Human ruins. Ancient cities on dead worlds. Weapons platforms still operational after thousands of years. Everyone in the galaxy knows about the predecessors. They just didn't know we were still alive. What are they saying about us now? Unji asked. Some are calling us gods. Some are calling us demons. Most are just scared. But there's something else. Do-hyun hesitated. What is it? Changmin prompted. There are warnings. Old warnings. Several ancient civilizations left messages about humanity. They say we didn't just leave the galaxy. They say we were running from something, hiding from something. The room went very quiet. High Commander Dreth stood again. I have information that may be relevant. Our archaeologists have been studying predecessor ruins for centuries. We found something disturbing on the edge of the galaxy, a dead zone. Hundreds of solar systems, all lifeless. All showing signs of advanced warfare on a scale we can barely comprehend. When did this happen? Admiral Heechul asked. Approximately 50,000 years ago, Dreth said. The same time the predecessors vanished from the galaxy. Dr. Junho felt a chill run through him. We didn't vanish. We ran home. We came back to Earth. To hide, Heijin added quietly. Ambassador Unji looked around the room. Wait for what? Before anyone could answer, alarms began to sound. Not emergency alarms, deep space sensors. Lieutenant Do-hyun's eyes went wide, and he grabbed his head. What is it? Changmin demanded. Something's coming. Do-hyun gasped. Something massive. At the edge of the galaxy. The sensors. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen. Across the galaxy, similar alerts were going off. Every spacefaring civilization was detecting the same thing. A massive energy signature, moving in from dark space beyond the galactic rim. On Earth, Officer Seojun was in a training facility. helping new, awakened humans learn to control their abilities. He had become something like a teacher, though he was still learning himself. His ability to see multiple futures had grown stronger, and right now, all of those futures were showing him the same thing: darkness. Something vast and ancient. Moving toward the galaxy, he grabbed his communicator. "This is Officer Seojun. We need to contact Facility 7 immediately. Something's wrong. Something's coming." In the underground command center, Colonel Taejun and Major Sumin were already mobilizing. Every sensor Earth had was pointing toward the edge of the galaxy. The readings were impossible to fully understand. But one thing was clear. Whatever was coming was incredibly powerful. "Get me a connection to the council chamber," Taejun ordered. When the connection opened, he saw the assembly of Earth leaders and alien representatives all looking at their own data feeds. "We see it," General Changmin said before Taejun could speak. "What are we looking at?" "We're not sure yet," Taejun replied. "But Lieutenant Do-hyun is accessing ancient databases. He's finding references. Old warnings." Do-hyun's voice came through the speakers. "It's called the swarm in most languages. The void in others. The end in some. 50,000 years ago, it swept through this part of the galaxy. It destroyed everything in its path. The predecessors, we, fought it. We lost. So we ran. We came back to Earth, sealed ourselves away, and went dormant. We were hiding," Dr. Junho said softly. "All this time, we've been hiding." High Commander Dreth looked pale. "How long until it reaches inhabited space?" Taejun checked his displays. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions. Some demanded immediate evacuation plans. Others wanted to know why they hadn't been warned earlier. Ambassador Yoonji raised her hand, and slowly, the room quieted. "We've been preparing for the wrong war," she said calmly. "We prepared to defend Earth from invasion. But the real threat was never other species. It was what we were running from." General Changmin nodded grimly. "The Velkari invasion woke us up, triggered our genetic memories. Maybe that was fortunate, because now we have time to prepare." 5 years, Admiral Heechul said, "to get ready for something that destroyed human civilization 50,000 years ago, something that made us run and hide." "We're not the same species we were 50,000 years ago," Dr. Heejin said. "We've had time to evolve, to grow." Officer Seojun's voice came through the communication system. "I'm seeing the futures. Multiple timelines. In most of them, we lose. The galaxy burns. Everything dies." "Most of them?" Unji asked sharply. "Not all?" "Not all," Seojun confirmed. "There are paths where we win. They're narrow, difficult, but they exist." General Changmin stood tall. "Then we take those paths. We've already done the impossible once. We've awakened an entire species. We've revealed ourselves to the galaxy. We've made peace with our enemies." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of humans and aliens alike. "Now we do the impossible again. We prepare. We train. We remember everything our ancestors knew. And when the swarm arrives, we'll be ready. Not just Earth," High Commander Dreth added. "The Velkari Empire stands with you. We owe you that much. And I think others will join us." Ambassador Yoonji activated a galaxy-wide transmission. Her face appeared on screens across thousands of worlds. "This is Ambassador Unji of Earth, speaking on behalf of humanity and our allies. Many of you know us as the predecessors. We have returned, and we bring both a warning and an offer. Something ancient and terrible is coming. Something that destroyed our civilization once before. But this time, we will not run. This time, we will fight, and we invite all free species to stand with us." The message went out across the galaxy. And slowly, responses began to come back. Some were refusals. Some were insults. Some were expressions of disbelief. But some were acceptances. Species that had feared humanity now saw a chance for survival. Old enemies saw a chance for redemption. In just 6 months, Earth had gone from a hidden world to the center of galactic politics. Now they had 5 years to prepare for the greatest war the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Minji stood on the bridge of the Sol Dawn, humanity's first public deep space vessel. The ship was enormous, built using the recovered knowledge from the Awakening. It combined human engineering with ancient predecessor technology and improvements from allied species. She looked out at the stars through the viewing screen. 6 months ago, she had been a captain in charge of a satellite monitoring station. Now she commanded Earth's flagship and served as humanity's representative to the galactic community. "Status report," she said calmly. Colonel Taejun, who now served as her diplomatic officer, checked his display. "We're 3 light years from Earth, approaching the Valkyrie homeworld. Their defense fleet is standing down as promised. We should arrive in 6 hours." Minji nodded. The Sol Dawn was making a diplomatic tour of allied worlds. It was important to show that Earth was not just a military power. They wanted allies, not subjects. Behind her, Lieutenant Do-hyun worked at a sensor station. His psychic abilities had grown incredibly strong. He could monitor communications across half the galaxy. If he concentrated, right now, he was listening to thousands of conversations about Earth and the coming threat. "What are they saying?" Minji asked. "Mixed reactions," Do-hyun replied. "Some species are mobilizing to join the defense. Others are fleeing to the opposite side of the galaxy. A few think we're lying about the swarm. To gain power, let them think what they want," Taejun said. "The truth will be obvious soon enough." On Earth, the Renaissance Project had expanded massively. Dr. Junho and Dr. Heejin now oversaw hundreds of facilities around the world. They were helping billions of people understand their awakening and develop their abilities. In a training center in Seoul, Officer Sojun taught a class of 50 students. They were learning to control precognition, the ability to see possible futures. It was one of the more difficult abilities to manage. "Don't try to see everything at once," Sojun explained. "Focus on one question, one path. Let the futures come to you, naturally." A young woman named Youngmi raised her hand. "What if we see something terrible? Something we can't prevent? Then you see it," Sojun said quietly. "And you try to change it anyway. The future isn't fixed. Every choice creates new possibilities." He knew this from personal experience. Every day, he saw thousands of possible futures. In most of them, the swarm destroyed the galaxy. But in some, humanity and its allies found a way to win. Those futures were fragile, depending on countless small decisions made correctly. Detective Yuna had left police work to join the diplomatic corps. Her ability to understand alien cultures and languages made her invaluable. She was currently on the Sol Dawn with Admiral Minji, helping negotiate with the Valkyrie government. Detective Minho had taken a different path. He had discovered he could manipulate energy at a fundamental level. He was now helping design new weapons for the coming war. In the underground command center, General Changmin reviewed battle plans with commanders from a dozen different species. The alliance was growing, but coordinating so many different military forces was incredibly complex. "The Valkyrie have committed 2,000 ships," reported Commander Pavel from Russia. "The Korathi are sending 500. The Mindari have promised 1,000 support vessels." "What about the Zenthans?" Chungmin asked, still undecided. "They're afraid of the swarm, but they're also afraid of us." General Amara from Kenya pulled up tactical displays. "We need to think bigger. Even with all these forces, we're looking at maybe 10,000 ships total. The records say the swarm came with millions. Then we need force multipliers," said Admiral Heechel. "We need to use the ancient technology more effectively." Dr. Junho entered the command center with exciting news. "We've had a breakthrough in the Renaissance Project. We found a way to accelerate the awakening process safely. We can bring more people online faster." How many more? Chungmin asked. If we expand to full capacity, we could awaken 50% of Earth's population in 3 years. Major Suman brought up logistics data. That's 4 billion people with enhanced abilities. But they'll all need training, housing, support systems. We'll manage, Chungmin said firmly. We don't have a choice. On the Velkari homeworld, High Commander Dreth waited for the Sol Dawn to arrive. He stood in the Planetary Defense Command Center with his senior officers. They were all nervous. The humans had destroyed a conquest fleet in seconds. Now, one of their ships was approaching the homeworld itself. Should we be afraid? Asked his second-in-command. Probably, Dreth replied honestly. But fear is useless now. We made our choice. We stand with Earth. When the Sol Dawn entered orbit, it was broadcast live across the Velkari planet. Billions watched as the massive human ship hung in their sky. Admiral Minji's face appeared on every screen. People of the Velkari Empire, she said. We come not as conquerors, but as allies. 6 months ago, your military attacked Earth. We defended ourselves. Now we offer you a chance to stand with us against a threat that will destroy us all if we fight alone. Dreth appeared on split screen beside her. I have seen what humans can do. I have seen their mercy and their power. I believe they are our only hope against the swarm. The Velkari Empire formally joins the Galactic Defense Alliance. The response was mixed. Many Velkari were angry about the destruction of their fleet. Others were grateful that Earth had shown restraint. But most were simply afraid of what was coming. Elsewhere in the galaxy, Corporal Inwu was part of a special team exploring ancient ruins. They had traveled to a dead world on the edge of known space. The ruins here were 50,000 years old, built by humans before the Great Retreat. Look at this, called out one of the researchers. She had found a data storage device, still functioning after all this time. When they activated it, a holographic message appeared. It was a human woman, but her face was marked with tattoos in a style no modern human used. She spoke in an ancient language that only the awakened could understand. If you're seeing this, then the swarm has returned, the woman said. We fought them for 1,000 years. We lost entire star systems. Billions died. In the end, we couldn't win, so we ran. We went back to Earth, our birthplace, and we hid. We locked away our knowledge and our technology in our very DNA, waiting for the day when we would be needed again. The hologram showed images of the ancient war, massive ships battling across star systems, planets being consumed, entire civilizations being erased. The swarm is not alive, not in the way we understand life, the woman continued. It is something else. Something that exists between dimensions. It feeds on energy, on matter, on life itself. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be negotiated with. It can only be fought. But there is hope, she said. We learned things during our war. Weaknesses. Patterns. We left weapons platforms hidden throughout the galaxy. Ancient defense systems waiting to be activated. And we left our knowledge in the one place the swarm couldn't reach, inside ourselves. The hologram looked directly at them. You are our descendants. You carry everything we learned. Trust your awakening. Trust each other. And remember, humanity has never been just one species. We are a family that spans the stars. Call them home. Call all of them home. Call all of them home. The message ended. Corporal Inwu and his team looked at each other in shock. Call all of them home, Inwu repeated. What does that mean? The researcher who found the device was examining the data. There are coordinates here. Thousands of them. Locations scattered across the galaxy. Locations of what? Inwu asked. Colony worlds. Human worlds that were established during the ancient expansion. They went dark 50,000 years ago. But these coordinates suggest they might still be inhabited. In Wu immediately contacted the Sol Dawn. Admiral Minji, we've found something. There might be other human populations out there. Lost colonies that survived. On the Sol Dawn, this news changed everything. Admiral Minji called an emergency council meeting. If there are other human populations, they might have survived differently, Taejun said. They might have different knowledge, different abilities, or they might be hostile, warned Detective Yuna. 50,000 years is a long time. We have to try, Minji decided. We need every advantage we can get. Send exploration teams to the nearest coordinates. Over the next months, human ships visited the locations from the ancient database. Some coordinates led to dead worlds. Others led to nothing at all. But 3 of them led to living colonies. The first colony they found was on a world called Haven. The humans there had forgotten their origins, but had maintained some technology. When they learned about Earth and the coming swarm, they immediately pledged their support. The second colony was more advanced. They had known about Earth all along and had been waiting for contact. They brought ships and weapons to the Alliance. The third colony was the most surprising. The humans there had evolved in isolation, developing unique psychic abilities that Earth's population was only beginning to rediscover. They became teachers, helping the awakening process across the Alliance. Dr. Heijin was amazed by the diversity of human evolution. We're not one species anymore. We're dozens of variations, all adapted to different environments, but we're still connected through our DNA. As the years passed, the Alliance grew stronger. More species joined. Ancient weapons platforms were discovered and reactivated. Human abilities developed rapidly as the awakening spread. Officer Sojun continued to see the futures. And slowly, carefully, the probability of victory began to increase. In the command center on Earth, General Changmin watched the countdown. 4 years had passed since the Velkari invasion. 1 year remained before the swarm would reach inhabited space. Ambassador Eunji stood beside him. Are we ready? No, Changmin said honestly. But we're as ready as we can be. Admiral Minji brought the Sol Dawn back to Earth orbit. The ship had completed its diplomatic tour and was now being upgraded with the latest weapons systems. Lieutenant Do-hyun reported the latest intelligence. The swarm is moving faster than predicted. We have 8 months, not a year. Then we accelerate our preparations, Minji said calmly. High Commander Dreth arrived on Earth personally to coordinate the final battle plans. The Velkari Empire, once humanity's enemy, was now their closest ally. I never imagined this, Dreth said to General Changmin. My species spent centuries conquering others. Now we're all fighting together. Strange what a common enemy can do, Changmin replied. In training centers around the world, millions of awakened humans prepared for war. Seojun's students. Young Mi and thousands like her. They would be the first line of defense. Dr. Junho and Dr. Heejin had one final breakthrough. They discovered how to temporarily boost the awakening to maximum levels. It would turn ordinary humans into weapons of incredible power, but only for a short time. It's dangerous, Heijin warned. Some people might not survive the strain. We don't have a choice, Junho said quietly. When the swarm arrives, we'll need everything we have. 8 months later, the swarm entered sensor range. It was exactly as the ancient records described. Millions of ships, if they could be called ships. Dark vessels that seemed to absorb light itself. Admiral Minji stood on the bridge of the Sol Dawn one last time. The Allied fleet had assembled. 10,000 ships from 100 different species, all united under one banner. This is it, she said quietly to Taejun. This is what we've been preparing for. The futures are in flux. Officer Seojun reported from Earth. I can't see clearly anymore. Too many variables. But I see one constant. We fight together, or we die, alone. General Changmin activated the galaxy-wide communication network. All forces, this is Earth Command. The swarm is here. Remember what we're fighting for. Remember who we are. Humanity fought the dark once before and we ran. This time, we stand. This time, Admiral Minji echoed from the Sol Dawn. We win. The swarm advanced. The Allied fleet moved to meet it. And across the galaxy, humans and aliens alike prepared for the battle that would determine the fate of all life. The Empire had fought war on Earth and been defeated in moments. Now Earth would show the universe what humans could do when given time to prepare. The war was only beginning.